Hello and welcome to MinMax, a place about games, friends, and getting better. My name is Haley MacLean, and this is a very special episode of Max Spoilers because so many people love this game, we just had to talk about it. I'll pause I wish we could play this the whole thing, but I'll stop the absolute slamming soundtrack.
Bit, at least?
I did get to the monk chanting, but
okay,
yes,
that's
don't
all
worry. That's all we needed. Welcome. This is a Max Spoilers episode, part 1 for Metaphor ReFantazio, the latest RPG from Atlus, the creators of Persona. I didn't have this on my radar, and now it's pretty much probably going to be my game of the year. I'm very excited to talk about it with my friends here on the call today. So
big news.
So spoilers, ahoy, obviously, and then we're going to be talking about the first two. I almost said the first 2 hours. The first two city. This is going to be part 1 of 900.
We're not at the tutorial yet. The first tutorial.
The first 2 cities of this game. So around mid to end July, if you're looking at the in-game calendar, that's what we'll be talking about. So hop off if you're not at that place yet and you don't want to know, but if not, spoilers ahoy. And if you are a supporter on MinMax on patreon.com/MinMax with 2 N's at the $5 tier, you can get this podcast on your favorite podcasting app, plus Deepest Dive as episodes, and not to toot my own horn, bonus pod on your phone and other devices as well. So make sure to support MinMax there. Enough of that. Here's the crew. All of us voluntarily really wanted to be here. We said we need to do a Max Spoilers because we love this game so much, which I'm very excited for. I'm joined by Jacob Geller.
My whole life is this game, and I haven't been able to talk about it with anyone. So
too.
I needed this. I've been looking forward to this for like a week and a half.
Same here.
You said on Instagram or something that you were like 50 hours into this game.
I am 55 hours into the game.
Oh, well,
I've been loving your
God.
tweets, by the way, about this game, Jacob.
Fantastic,
Like,
yes.
I've just been loving following him along.
This is okay. Look, I don't want to dominate this. This is my first Atlus game, like arguably like one of my first JRPGs. Just like this is a real new experience for me. So I'm excited to talk to y'all about it.
Oh, great. Well, we also have JRPG savant Kelsey Lewin on the panel as well. So
Hi. Yeah, this is so funny for me because like Jacob, I think you're gonna like a lot of JRPGs. Like, this is a very good one. Don't get me. I'm not taking away from that at all. This is among the best. This is a fantastic version of a JRPG. There's a lot of other ones that are also up here like this. So if you're loving it this much, I can recommend several others.
And also joined
Jacob, I
by
will counterpoint.
Sarah Podzorski. Go ahead,
That
Sarah.
might not be true, necessarily. As another JRPG enjoyer, sometimes you gotta, as somebody, this is the first, like, Persona-like game that has hit for me. And honestly, like, I literally had to look in the mirror and I was like, was it the Persona all along that I couldn't deal with? Because when they swapped
Was it the high school?
Yeah, it was like, was it the high school? I'm like, when they swapped it to like a D&D style Final Fantasy class system, sort of like tier system, I was like, I'm all in. Where are my little guys?
It's like, no matter how much I like this, I don't think I can become a JRPG person because this is taking up too much of my life. Like, I haven't like done anything else in the past 2 weeks.
It's taking up all my time. I'm behind on Life is Strange. I still haven't played the Alan Wake DLC. If that tells you anything, I still haven't played the Alan Wake DLC because I've been playing this so much. That's crazy.
Haley, I know we're not going to like talk about the events, but like what's your hour count?
I'm at like 55 to 60-ish hours too, so right there with you.
After this is done, we'll talk about where we are.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'll get like DMs from you at like midnight. You're like, I love this person so much. And I'm like, oh my God, me too. Like, it's just one of those games where everyone's likable. I love everyone in this game. So I guess we'll start for context on like how this society is built, because this game is so good at not being cringy about discussing like issues that come about with discrimination, as sometimes other games can be a little bit heavy-handed. You know, I give it credit that like, you know, you see the elf, ogre, whatever in other fantasy things, but the different races they have in this game felt very like familiar, but also kind of new in that they're putting a lot of care into fleshing out, like, okay, yeah, they have pointy ears, but here's what else is about this race and their backstory and where they're from and what they value and things like that.
Yeah, I
Okay,
like
so
that there's...
because-
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, this is not that important, but there's so many things in this game. I feel like I keep uncovering, like, oh no, this is a real thing taken from like a real writer from the 16th century or whatever, a real painter or whatever from forever ago in the Netherlands. And so with these races, I keep trying to be like, is this from something else? Like, do any of you guys know? I haven't found anything yet, but I feel like I might be missing something really cool with this, just given how many other things are inspired by other things in this game.
I don't know about
That's
the
a
races.
good question.
Yeah.
I mean, I like that they are kind of, it's like, okay, this is kind of an elf, this is kind of a fairy, but they're not like, oh, well, here's our dwarf and he likes to be a blacksmith. It's like, it's not exactly predictable in what everything is going to be. And there's some where it's like, I kind of am still not totally clear on like what a parapus.
They're like the dog people, right?
No, I know, but like what they're and this is where the racism allegory
Their role
gets
is
a
the
little
oppressed,
messy.
Jacob. Is that so hard to understand?
Yeah, because I'm like, what's their deal? Which would be a crazy thing to say about like a race.
That's true. They don't really explain like if they're from some sort of like if they're like refugees of some sort. Like I think they like just lightly touch on the fact that like they're flowing into the capital because they need work opportunities and like the humans have kind of sort of like taken over a lot of where they used to live. But yeah, it is a little and I love
And
the
Sarah,
main
when
character.
you say human, what do you mean?
Human. Oh my! Did you guys look internally into yourselves when they called the monster the humans? Did you look inside yourselves?
The
and
calls
feel
coming
bad?
from inside the house moment.
I was like,
for
is
sure.
this not us?
That was so great. And I mean, it's skipping ahead a little bit. The human designs are so good. So like Renaissance horror. Ugh, the first one you fight.
Do you guys know this part? Because I did not know this until like a few days ago. So don't feel dumb about it, because it's not like they tell you this. A lot of the human designs so far, I think all of them, are from the works of Hieronymus Bosch, a Dutch painter from like the 1500s.
I got it.
Yeah, and not like
he made
inspired by, like exactly.
Almost exactly, yeah. And
Because
he
they look
makes,
like horrors.
yes, he makes the most insane stuff. And I'm not an art historian, I'm going to butcher some of this, but like he did a bunch of like what is, meant to be very religious paintings where it's like, here's humanity being good and being godly and everything, and then here's humanity as it descends into sin and horrible, having too much of a good thing and having too much fun, and then they be like, his paintings depict some weird fish people and guys with hearts on plates holding above their head and all of that
That's
stuff.
just straight up the first monster you fight. That's a painting.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so these are
Big Haley.
yeah. Yeah, so I didn't know this until a couple days ago, but now with that kind of like looking at these designs through that lens, I'm like, first of all, like I was already impressed by them, just that anyone has ever come up with something this weird, but that it wasn't even someone like who has access to AI hallucinations and LSD and stuff. It was some guy in the 1500s, like,
Oh, good old fear of hell. That's what it'll
that's
get
amazing.
That's their main drug back then. Yeah.
And Haley, you brought up on the first MinMax where you're talking about this, that like Thomas More is the author of Utopia, which I don't think I would have got, even though it is like,
I didn't put that together
boy,
either.
they really, once it's like, oh, they're really hitting this nail. But yeah, that the whole thing is like Utopia and Thomas More, and he's like, hey, I wrote this, or his name is More, but it's like, I'm the writer of Utopia. Come talk to me about what I think about everything. And then I love how every new person you meet, they're like, what's that book you're reading? And you're like, let me show you. And then they have a
And it's
section
never
that's
at a normal
very
time.
specific.
They pass it like
Middle
a
of the
blunt
they come into
every
your room, they're
night.
like, hey, can I look at that book again? And you're like, yeah. And then they just like instantly change. They're like, wow, I love this, so believable, so achievable.
Here's my take. Seems like a boring book. Like, they keep saying it's a fantasy book. I'm like, there are no characters. There's no story. It's just a guy being like, and everyone's equal here, and they all have jobs that they like. And they're like, wow.
The real Utopia, I read it in 2011, so it's been a while, but I want to reread it once I finish playing this. My copy was at my parents' house, and I legit like brought it home fully intending to read it. Let's see if I actually do. But it's like meant to be inspirational, right? It's like, here's how to do it step by step. And it's not exactly like, then a knight came in and slayed the king. It's like, on Thursdays, we vote. On Fridays, if someone does this, do this to them. Like, it's very methodical, that book. It's supposed to be like a treatise, not a novel, so to speak, I guess.
I mean, that's like the other side of the art of war, right? Like, that book is also just like I mean, I know people like to use it for all kinds of crazy stuff now, but it's also like, and make sure you have this many bushels of grain to feed your soldiers if you're going on a trip this long, or they'll start revolting. So, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I found it funny how hard they were hammering that. But unless you, like, I wrote a paper on that book when I was 19. So, like, I just happened to be like, oh, that dude, I remember him. He was annoying when I was 19 and I'd write a paper about him. Like, that's the only reason it came to mind. But it really permeates, like, throughout the entire game, really, once you make that connection that, oh, that's not just a character they made up. That's supposed to be a real dude that wrote this book forever ago.
And he's kind of a leather daddy, but like
slaying.
Everyone's slaying in this game.
Heeled boots.
Name one ugly person in this game. Done. That's my sentence. I can't think of
The
Oh,
old
you
man
do-
that died. What was his name?
Grius.
Oh.
Grius or
Oh, I
Grius.
thought you were gonna say the king.
Yeah.
The king's pretty ugly. I'll give you that. The king. Well,
Actually, like, a lot of people on that council are kind of...
Ugly.
ooh,
Yeah.
who's that one
Yeah.
with like they're kind of bald and they have
Yeah,
They have
I
Hulkenberg
definitely thought
in
that
the
was a
religious
woman,
guy?
and then they called him a man, and I was like, oh, okay.
It was really giving Twilight Princess, that character, to me. I like.
Yeah. Or
okay,
they're
so-
or they're like the Evangelion council or something. It's just like sometimes you just cut to this dark room
Yeah.
full of weird people and you're like, oh, okay.
Sometimes I feel like I can only tell who's on like Lewis's team because they're like significantly more attractive than everybody else in the game for whatever reason.
They're like,
and they're like,
they're like
purple?
leather daddy or goth or
Yeah.
something. Like
It's
they're
a
all
Final Fantasy thing.
yeah, they look like they're in Final Fantasy.
I feel like if Sephiroth didn't exist in this timeline and Luis came about, I think he would be a suitable Sephiroth replacement. Like he's Sephiroth in a different font.
They really made him, in my opinion, too attractive. Okay,
Interesting.
Because-
Yeah,
in my opinion, and I feel like my issue, and I feel like we're jumping forward a little bit, is like the whole point is you're gonna assassinate him, and I'm like, no, we're not. He's like too hot. We're not like
He's
like
too
that right there.
interesting.
I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, why would we kill the hottest character who got the anime intro?
do you guys know? Have you guys ever seen Legend of Galactic Heroes? It's like a really old anime.
No.
Okay,
the
Lewis
space-
looks
the one with like the
yeah.
guy with the flowing blonde hair.
Yes, yeah, he looks. Reinhardt looks exactly like Lewis, and I'm like, they don't really act that much alike, other than trying to dominate the world. But it's like, oh, we're just doing flowing long blonde hair hot guys as the evil guys now.
They know
huh?
it works. I mean,
I do love one of the things that got me in early, because we can talk about it. It's like I don't know how much of the society stuff is working for me in this game, but like the beginning being like, hey, we need to get this guy a message. We need to tell him what's going on. And the message is kill this guy, and not like take him out. We need to remove him from power. It's like, no, you need to go there and assassinate him. And no one is like, I don't know, killing feels wrong to me. They're all like, I am on board, which I just think is like it's such a kind of ballsy place to start.
and they really plan that in 3 days after they get the note to the guy. Like they're like, all right, so Thursday we'll kill one of the most decorated military professionals of all time.
And we're
Cool.
gonna do it. Get this guy's on a stage in front
On
of
a
the
stage.
entire city.
It'll work, and we'll definitely be able to come back home to our daughter Maria and have dinner tonight. See you
I
later,
just closed with
hon.
My child, by the way, I haven't seen her in a long time, and she's full of love and hope. And anyways, bye.
Yeah, that was a bit of a gay. I mean, I knew I was like, okay, this isn't going to go well, obviously, but the King's Will magic being an element of no, the hell you're not, slow down was a more fun twist than just like he dies because someone stabs him, at least.
Yeah, I do just think like the entire concept of this is, I don't know, it's very interesting. I'm really enjoying just how they've set that up. Like, the king is kind of like forcing a democracy on a place that has never had anything like that. And not only that, but it's a magic democracy where you cannot assassinate someone who is like well liked. It's just it's such a like, I don't know. I really, really enjoy that as a plot point. It's just like, okay, yeah, like there's not gonna...
Oh, sorry. The weirdness of our protagonist being like, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna win so I can reinstitute a monarchy. You know, he's like, I'm gonna win the democracy so I can put a royal back in power.
Yeah.
I'm like, that doesn't seem like the point of
And
this.
guys, I'll be honest, outside of the beginning, because the beginning is when they hit really hard about the prince stuff and how you became friends. By 10 hours in, if they didn't keep showing me the prince every time the day switched over, I would not remember who that was.
I wonder if that's intentional.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
That's your
him.
best friend for life.
Yeah.
It's my best friend.
He almost never comes up. Like, they're
No.
not talking about him very
No.
often.
They
It's
really,
it's
basically
like
just when a new guy is
Hulkenberg
introduced
feels
to your
guilty.
party.
yeah.
Yeah.
She's got
There's,
night
like,
guilt.
unless-
That's about it.
It's like, it's only like, yeah, when a new person joins and they're like, all right, I guess we got to fill them in about what's going on. And yeah, there were some parts in this game where, like, because of that, I almost forgot, like, what the point was. There's the part where you have to, like, help one of the people who's running for Lewis. And
I had the same issue.
yeah, and I was like, okay, they're hinting really strongly that I need to help this guy. And I'm like, why am I doing that again?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and then afterwards Lewis shows up and you're like, tell him what we're doing. And I was looking at the three options and I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to say here. Because it was things like, tell him that, you actually want to be king, or like, you're just doing it to help him, or I forget what the third option was, but none of them sounded right to me. And the correct option is just tell him, like, yeah, no, we're trying to help you. And I guess it's just because you're trying to get close to him so you can kill him.
Yeah,
Like,
it's so embarrassing, so cringe. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm doing this for you. I love you, Lewis. Like,
What
he's like,
happens
makes
if you
sense.
pick the other? Does anything happen if you
they
don't
just
like
tell
it?
you. Yeah, they don't let you. Gallica's like, that would be a
kinda
really
bad.
bad idea, you idiot. Like,
See,
oh,
yeah,
okay.
I was
kinda
curious.
mixed. I agonized over it, and I'm like, I want to be king. Like, I'm only 20 hours in, and
Same.
I want to be king. And I keep having to tell people that I don't want to be king, and I'm like, that's a lie.
Well, and you see your little popularity
I
rating
love
going
the
up every time
popularity
you help
rating.
Look at
someone.
my statistic crown. I'm really well-rounded. Like, I'm...
The popularity
much tolerance.
meter is everything you wanted to be visualized when you were in high school. It's like, where am I standing right now? Like, did I go up? Like, you go to a party and you're like, did I go up or down even by one vote? No. Like, I just
you get
the gamifying.
You get like
of
an
that.
update, like you do something nice for someone and it goes like, whoop, and you're like, and your popularity is increased by a
When I
measurable
was in high
number.
school, all I wanted was a face like the moon about to crash into the earth, and one of its eyes was a picture of all the most popular guys, and it would change.
How
Just
sucky
have that
would
rock
it be?
in the center of the courtyard at school.
Like, how messy is it that the king did that after he died? He was like, well, I had a good run. Anyways, democracy.
He's so weird too, because it's like the dude who
messy.
killed him. He's like, don't touch him. I'm like, King, do you have any kind of like?
He
He
killed
is
you.
so respectful of the will
Self-respect?
of the people,
I
despite being
guess.
assassinated. And like,
And-
apparently he can't see everything.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys remember, because it's like the literal first cutscene, but Lewis says something like, basically like insinuates that the king has been thinking about being a little more fair and democratic and just being like, well, this is why I have to kill you, because that's just the dumbest thing
While
I've
he was
ever heard. Like,
comatose
yeah.
from old age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When was he implementing these policies?
This'll never work, so you gotta die.
Yeah, I mean, and like the whole Louise thing is really interesting because it's like the other major player is like the church. And the church is pretty clearly bad. It's like, okay, I don't like what this church is going on. And Luis also doesn't like the church. And so
Yeah.
he like spends a lot of time talking about, he's like, the church is bad. And I'm like, on this, we agree, And so it's interesting that he is, that he he also wants something new. You know, that the Church of Sanctism is like status quo. That's the best. We'll just like pick our guy and put him in charge and it'll all be good. And Luis is like, I want something new, which is also what you want. But he wants, I don't know. I think of him basically as like Senator Armstrong from Metal Gear Rising Revengeance. You know, like he's just like, in my world, everyone's fighting in the streets and it's great.
And there's no church.
He has very complicated messaging, which like I think like it hits particularly right now, where he's basically just like, hey, like he makes these sweeping remarks about how like even the people, even the, you know, the quote unquote bad races or whatever, the like Parapists and the Elda and whatever, like, you know, anyone can be somebody in my world if I'm king. But then he's also like, and also I'm gonna crush all of you and you need me and I'm gonna rule you with an iron fist. Like it's very like,
as long as you're strong. Like, it doesn't matter what else.
He has this very interesting messaging where it's like, well, it's very good that he's at least outwardly trying to be, you know, he's communicating that he does not want this class, you know, this like horrible class discrimination, but then his actual actions and then like the other part of his messaging has nothing to do with any of that. And it's really interesting. And you see, like, kind of as you're like wandering around town and stuff, you see people kind of like wrestling with that too, and being like, well, we need him to protect us, and he says I can be someone, and then someone being like, are you kidding me? Like, that's not how any of this is going to work. That's not how a ruler like that works.
Yeah, he's kind of he's kind of like libertarian or whatever, right? Where he's like, everyone should be able to just do whatever they want, and if you have the power, you can just take over no matter what race you are, but without. And the thing where I'm trying to keep up with, like, how much is the game aware of this or not, is like, the game is really interested in discrimination, and I don't know how much it is thinking about institutions in this, because as I put on Blue Sky, it's like a lot of the game is someone is racist towards you and then you do them a favor and then they're like, I guess I shouldn't have been racist. And it does seem that is kind of the game's take on like how you beat racism, is like you be nice and then everyone sees that like being nice is possible, which it's lovely to be nice, but like I don't think that's how you beat racism personally.
It's more of an individualistic take.
Yeah,
on...
and everybody sees your group of all the different like races, and they're like, wow, I didn't know that was possible. And you're like, are you kidding me? Like, we live in a society, like we've been doing it for years.
We live in a society.
Wow. It's so crazy how you guys are all friends. You know what? Heterochromia. I can't believe you would be friends with someone who has heterochromia. That's wild. Like, when you go through town and people would just like be like, I can't believe you're here. Like, who let you in? I was like,
it's so heavy-handed at the start. It's crazy.
Especially in the beginning, too. Yeah. They're like, heterochromia? Disgusting.
I can't sell to you. Bye.
Like, okay. Without getting into spoilers, because I don't think it's happened, at least up to the point we're talking about, but, like, there has not been another Elda, right? Like, we've not even we're,
like, super special, because didn't they, like, burn our special magic grove down that we lived in?
It's not us, Sarah. It's the protagonist. We're very separate from the protagonist.
That's
remember?
Right, yeah.
Very intentional.
Okay, but it's my will. I'm God. Okay?
It's the king's
my
will.
I am God.
It's the king's will.
Is his name Will? Because...
It is. I looked it up.
That's... No, I know, but you're saying my will and the king's will and...
Oh.
Like...
Is that like extra textual? Like, where does it say the canon name is?
You always just have to look that up.
Yeah, it's on
there's
like
always just like
somewhere.
they have a canonical thing that they've written down somewhere.
It's like Captain, comma Will, comma the protagonist.
Yeah, my guy's name is Verna.
We should do all our names. Mine's is Deacon. Kelsey.
I also went with Haley's strategy of asking my mom to name the character. So his name is Ebony. Ebony Shadow is his full name.
Oh my god, Ebony
you don't actually get to
Ravenway? Is that you?
That's what I was like, wow, my mom has like a 13-year-old edgelord streak. That's awesome.
What's yours name,
mine is
Sarah?
just Poggers.
Aw,
Just Poggers. Just my dog's name.
Excellent.
love it.
I couldn't fit poo poo pee
King
in there,
Poggers.
so we had to nix it.
Poggers is your follow-up to Poo Poo Pee Pee.
Yeah, it is.
That's good that he's in front of that.
Here's something that I want to say about the protagonist. Does not talk very much, but whenever he does, I'm like, I like this vocal performance a lot. Like,
Oh, are you guys playing in Japanese or English?
I'm playing in English.
I'm English, yeah.
Okay, I'm playing in Japanese, so
I'm playing in
It's all-
Japanese, but I have been impressed. I switched to English because I have been impressed by what I've heard.
I just think like of the, the kind of type, which is like soft-spoken, nice young boy, it is really easy to do that annoying. And I really like the take that the English voice actor has on him. It's just like whenever he says it, I'm like, that's the tone I want, which is cool. And it's like I'm rarely kind of dissatisfied with, because it's like you pick a line and then he says something slightly different than what you picked. But it's always like, yeah, that's what I was going for. And he always seems, nice and sincere when he says it.
I've really missed having the protagonist talk too, because obviously it's so common to have them not talk so that you become one with them, and then but that's like the opposite of what they want to do here. So they almost probably like, I wonder if they didn't have a voice for a while and they're like, oh no, we need one, because otherwise it kind of is the opposite of the themes, which is that person is them and you are you playing them, so therefore they should have a whole different voice from you. But every time he talks, I'm like, oh, it's just nice. I don't have to, is it mental load to come up with a voice for my own character's internal dialogue? Like as much as that feels like work, it's just nice that I don't have to do that. It's like, yep, that's what his voice sounds like. I know, Joker had a voice, kinda. They would barely show Joker's voice in Persona 5. It would just be sometimes like, let's go, or something like that. But other than that, he never talked, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think and I think I'm pretty sure that's every Persona game. It's weird how you forget details like that. Like
But you
I've
play
spent
120
so many hours in
hours.
Persona games, and I mean, I guess it's probably worth just talking through a little bit how this differs from Persona games. I mean, it's a lot of the same kind of like bones, I guess, in the sort of like, you do spend time, like you can choose how you spend your time kind of in between things. You can choose to, get closer to certain people, which will give you certain bonuses in how you set up your fights, basically. Like you can, you'll be able to get stronger with this kind of archetype, which is like their class system. I think I'm with you guys though about like the archetype system is, I think it's like a lot better than the way the tarot deck stuff that the Persona games have done. Like being able to actually just kind of like mix and match stuff. And we talked about this when we were on the podcast, that this game it's quite a bit harder than a Persona game, but you have so many options. Like especially, I feel like probably around the like 12 or 15 hour mark, I was like, okay, I actually have like a lot of options for making this easier on myself. But you can mix and match these classes and then kind of like, take skills from certain classes as you level them up and apply them to other things. And so you don't really like, I don't have like, oh, this person's my healer or this person's like, almost everyone on my team is dual purpose, if not like tri-purpose.
I love that.
And they have several different roles they play just depending on what we're going up against.
Yeah. I love that
And
everyone
it's nice
could
that
be
you
a
can
healer.
change it whenever.
Yeah.
I feel like most, I remember like in older games, they would be like, well, you can only change it at this one place before the dungeon. But you can change it in the dungeon whenever. You can be like, this isn't working, right? And you can just go in and switch everybody around and like swap their moves. And like, especially because usually when you get to a boss, they've given you like hints on what the boss is weak against. So you can go through the dungeon with like your like ra-ta-ta-ta, like guns a-blazing group. And then you get to the boss door and you can say, okay, like let's fine tune this. Like let's make sure everybody has what they need. They're all equipped with the stuff that they need. And it's just so nice in like a quality of life way. I really feel like they just nailed like good quality of life, especially with like the start the battle from the beginning button.
Oh
my God,
godsend.
The amount
The
of
rewind
times,
button.
Yes, like the amount of times I have one hit myself, like I hit a boss with like a full power attack and they rebound it back onto you, like it
Yep.
bounces back to you, and just knocked myself dead in one hit, and just go, well, at least I can just time to rewind
It's
that.
like Hulkenberg has anxiety. I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
Reverse.
So
You know
I will
what's
say-
really funny about this
ahead,
though
Kate.
is that it's emboldened me to just simply look up the weaknesses in certain cases because I'm like, well, the
You
other
don't buy
like,
the tip from the tip guy?
the tip
Oh no,
guy.
I buy that, but I mean like just
Okay.
random monster battle. Like the
Yeah.
first time I fight this worm or whatever, I'm like, okay, I could sit here and try everything and then press reset, or I could just look it up real quick and like save myself the song and dance because it clearly like it gives you this tool. So like it's fine with you messing up and trying again. And I'm like, well, in that case, why don't I just he's weak to fire. I'm just now
will
I know
say
that I don't have
it's-
to do that.
it's on the quality of life front. It's strange that you cannot, not only can you not like load a game when you're in the middle of battle, you can't even like hit pause. And it's like, I know that it's turn-based, and so like technically when it's your turn, you can just like leave it there, but it's weird. And especially there are some battles that I get in and I'm like, I just don't have the right class set up for this. Like I don't have someone with ice and I need ice. And it's like, I guess my option is just to like slowly die so the game can like start over, because you can't like in a boss battle, you can't escape and you can't just like hit like a load game button, which I've wished it had.
I
does
have
get-
just hit the Steam button and exited.
No, that's what I'm doing.
There
Yeah.
is the Steam button. That's true. I mean, as you get more party members, it does get a bit better because you could always swap someone out. But then they do have the restrictions, like if they're dead or if they have like a spell or whatever they call
Yeah,
that.
it's like, oh, they
status
have
effect.
frostbite. You can't
Yeah,
change them.
they're staying there. Yeah.
Okay, so this part of this being my first like Atlus game is this is going to be really obvious to anyone who's played these before, but I am just in awe of how genius the day system is for like reframing time that you spend with the game. And I feel like this is I've never heard anyone kind of articulate it in this way, which I think would have persuaded me to try more of these, because I heard like you can't do everything. You only have limited time, before the missions. And I thought like that sounds stressful. But really it's like it totally shifts your mindset from being like, I have to do this side quest to I get to do this side quest. Like, oh my gosh, I have enough time to squeeze this in. And even if the thing is boring, and to this game's credit, I think it's very rarely boring, but like, it's like, oh, I can sneak in a little extra character progression before I have to move to the next main quest. And it feels so good to like either like in the second village, I like left the final boss of the dungeon up until like the last day, and I was just like eking out every little thing that I could before that, and I felt so like good having been like, I did this with the maximum efficiency, and that is
I'll
part
put
of
you in on a secret with that, is that if you ever like beat the clock, there's always some sort of like, oh, the road's closed.
Yeah.
Guess
Right,
we'll
I
have to
figured that out
spend
now.
time for yeah. So you don't have to maximize it in that specific way, but yeah, no, you're totally right. Like the calendar system really does. Yeah, I think rather than it being like, oh, a stressful, you can't do everything rushing around thing, it's like it's just another like part of the puzzle. You just have to be kind of thoughtful in figuring out
Especially with
what
the
is
travel,
important to you.
too. I don't know
Totally.
other Persona games had that like travel
No,
thing, but I look forward to when like a dungeon's far away, because then it opens up to things that only happen on the ship. And it's like very D&D, where it's like you get random encounters. So you'll be going to like a secondary location and it's like the roll and it's like, oh, you've been jumped. What are you gonna do? And you're like, oh man, these roads sure are treacherous. But it is kind of cool that you can like plan your routes too. Like if you want to like do a big loop or something, or like stop somewhere else, and just the fact that they let you teleport, I did not think they were gonna let you teleport.
Oh, so
Can we
nice.
talk about how
so
kind that
nice.
is?
and not even like 2 different cities, but within the cities, it's like, I'm not even gonna walk to the armor shop. I'm just gonna teleport from the bar to the armor shop.
They gave me a cool skateboard sword, and I don't walk anywhere. I'm like, why do I need that? What?
Even in the Skyrunner, it's like when I want to go to the rear deck and have a bath, I'm just like rear deck. Like I never walk anywhere.
For that door.
Oh, well, it's funny. It reminds me, like, Persona 3 is my favorite Persona, and I literally like the portable version the most because they, like, remove all of the, you gotta, run from this class to your other class or, get on the train to go to the mall or whatever. It's just point and click. And I'm like, yeah, I'd rather just be like, yeah, I want to go there than spend time running through, like a ship or whatever. So, yeah, I appreciate that a lot. It's very, I mean, you've said it already, but like it's just very high quality of life for a game like this.
For the time management stuff, are any of you guys like me in that I need to finish the main objective as fast as possible so that I can goof off in my extra free time and feel like I finished my homework or something? Like it's genuinely the feeling I got like where I would get homework for the weekend, finish it on Friday night, and then have no anxiety all weekend. I'd be like,
You're
such a loser.
Yeah,
I know.
It's not surprising that you would do that, Haley. I'm the opposite, where like I try to do literally anything and everything else before I start on the dungeons, and it gets really annoying because you do those like end of night stuff, and they'll be like, we only have 19 days, and I'm like, yeah, 19 days. I got nothing but time. I'm free.
But I do like when you can like leave in the middle of the dungeon too, and like it's. Especially with that second dungeon, there's a moment where you're basically like chasing this guy down. He's like, I'm going to escape the city. And like, I got to the final boss of that dungeon where he, again, is like, I'm going to leave and escape the city. And I was like, I'm not quite prepared for this. And then I left the dungeon and like 3 days later came back to it. He was just,
He's still there.
He got lost.
Because the Persona dungeons were like, they weren't like actively in the real world, or they never like actively as much, because like in the second dungeon people are dying, people are supposedly being sacrificed while you dick around outside, so it's like I don't know if they've been as like intertwined with the active world as much.
I think in all the Personas, like real people do go missing. Like the dungeons in the other Persona games don't like, you can't just walk through the door in any of them. It's like, you're either going to the high school at night in Persona 3 or like jumping into a TV in Persona 4, but people are dying in there. Like they're making their way in there and then they're trapped in there and they are dying in there and they are like actually missing in the real world. And people are like, this person's
like, no
gone.
one, like really knows, right? Like where
no one knows like
but in this
why.
One, you have, like, the crypt, and everyone's like, yeah, don't go in there, it's a mess. And you're like, yeah, if only someone would do something about that. And meanwhile, I'm like, I'm shopping, like I'm hanging out with my friends.
It was another thing that it was like, oh, I like realized this while playing is like, I was fighting through the crypt, like the first dungeon, and I was like, wow, I am out of magic, and like they are not giving me any more. And then coming to the realization of looking at that, I was like 6 days left, and I was like, why does it keep showing me that? And then realizing like you're supposed to leave and like sleep then come back here. It was just like I've never, it's like the closest thing, at least this year, it's like Yakuza Infinite Wealth is like a turn-based RPG with a job system, and it's like, it's different in many ways, but it was like, okay, they have jobs and they have magic and whatever, but like there are no dungeons in that you're supposed to like take multiple days to do, everything is just kind of like a linear sequence. And so kind of organically coming to that realization was really cool, and it was also just like, oh my gosh, this thing is big. Like I'm like, surely the boss will be around this corner, and it kept being like a new floor, and I got to the point where I was like, I cannot get through these fights anymore because like I can't do magic,
and you can't buy like MP restoring items other than like, I think there were like 4 of them you could buy in one town, but like you really cannot replenish There is a way, if you are the mage archetype, you can, when you hit things in the overworld, you restore a little bit. But I don't think it restores any for the rest of your party. And so it's like, I don't know, it's a small way to regain a little bit, but there really is, there's no fix. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
it's
no
crazy
just
'cause
like...
that's the pinch for me more than like
Yeah.
health
Oh, for
or
sure.
dying. It's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
well,
I
can't
get
do anything
scared.
anymore. Guess I'll leave.
When I see those blue bars go down, even if I'm OP over leveled 5 levels, I'm like, I gotta get the hell out of here because I'm about to get beat the hell up because it's so important. It's so smart to match that with the time-based system because you can't just grease a whole area in one day. It's like as much as you really want to. And even if you have all the strats in the world, it's like, nope, you just straight up won't have MP. So go to bed. That's enough.
Yeah.
Chat is pointing out that I'm wrong. It does restore it for the whole party.
Oh, I didn't know
Or the
that.
mage in the overworld. So that's, yeah. I mean, so, I mean,
the
that
protagonist is a good mage. It is a good class for him.
He's
to
my
be.
magic user too, for sure.
okay, interesting.
I
Yeah,
gave him a
every
gun.
I really like him as a gunner.
She just said
That's
he's
actually-
a gun for me.
I gave him a gun.
Gave him a gun. He's I think that's my favorite overworld weapon though, because you can like
The
stand
gun.
back.
Oh my god, yes.
Yeah, and shoot people, and it kind of auto targets for you.
is
It's-
nice.
I
it's
will
very
say I
good.
love like the people that are in my party, but they keep teasing me with like Juna, who I think joins your party at one point, and like Catherine, and I'm just like, get in my party. And I don't want to invest in Stroll because I'm like, I'm waiting for her. Get in the party, all girl party. I'm ready. Let's go. Like, and they're really dragging it out with like your first 3. You're stuck with them for a really long time.
Yeah.
And they kind of give a lot of space between new party members.
They do. They kind of want you to like learn to love those ones before they move on to the next one, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I like.
Can we talk class strategy? Like what y'all are, and this will be a little difficult because believe it or not, there are a lot of more classes that you unlock
So
post
many.
this, and so I don't. But like my main takeaway is Hulkenberg. I'm just keeping as a knight generally, and
She's
it's like
goated.
her.
Do you have her as a
draw
magic knight yet,
aggro skill. Yes, yeah. I mean, I have her as whatever, but like still in the knight kind of lineage, and like the skill where she draws aggro trivializes almost every fight in the game. Like if you just have her standing being like, attack me, and then you can do like anything else with your other guys, it is so strong. And it really like, you know, especially the bosses often have like AoE attacks, but like if I'm ever struggling with like an overworld fight, I'm just like, Hulkenberg's gonna stand in the back row and she's going to draw aggro, and that's it.
I love her. I have her so maxed out on the most archetypes for
I feel
sure.
better because I also left her as a knight, and for that very reason,
Yeah,
I was like,
knight's
you're gonna
great.
sit here and you're gonna draw aggro, and I'm not putting health on anybody else in this entire party, and we're all glass cannons.
Do you know what?
God
I think
bless
she's
America.
the only
like-
one that I've just like I've been like, oh, you're a knight. I'm gonna keep you as a knight. Whereas everyone does have like sort of a canonical, you know,
Who's like
they're
your
supposed
trash
to go.
can? Like when you have to study those characters for more, who did you put merchant on?
Ugh. I still haven't.
Stroll. Stroll's my trash can. I'm like,
I
we
did.
need to level this.
I did Heismay for merchant because he was good at stealing stuff. I thought money.
Yeah, but
Makes
it is weird because it's like Hulkenberg is a great knight. Knight's a great class. Both the Seeker and the Warrior, like what the protagonist and what Stroll start out with, I was like, these are not doing it for me. And I keep kind of trying to go back to be like, what don't I get about the Seeker? And like, I'm not getting it. I don't know. It doesn't, you know, it seems like, you know, the mage and the gunner and everything, they're so strong. And the Seeker and the Warrior are both just kind of like, hey, you can do slash damage. Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm. I find Gunner pairs so good with Knight. Have y'all done this? Because all the shots are effective if you shoot them from the back row, which is where Hulkenberg already is anyways for like taking attacks. So as soon as I realized that, and there's all these like passives and stuff relating to that too. So now she just hangs out in the back row, tanks every hit, and when she needs to shoot something, she's just like, and then goes back to tanking hits. Oh, I have her so built out to be like the best fighter on the team by far, but also can take every hit.
For some reason, I do feel like Hulkenberg is the easiest to just like turn into a complete
god
machine. You know, like That's exactly kind of where I've gone to. I haven't done that. I think I want to do that next because that sounds really good. But yeah, definitely just like she was the only one where I was just like, this all fits. This is perfect. This is good in almost every situation. To just have a knight, like have a tank in there. But
yeah, I also went around.
Everyone else, it's been very random for me.
Oh, yeah, everyone, I always have a couple skills in Brawler that just use HP instead of MP as well, just in case I'm really far somewhere and I just need to get a little bit further and I can heal, but I can't get past MP. I have them all be a little Brawler for a little quick sec so they can just hit things with their fists to just maybe get to the next area. It's so fun to think of, even if there's limitations with MP, you can like strategize around it with the Archetype system.
I love having Heismay steal stuff.
Yeah,
that's one of my favorite. It's just him being good at stealing stuff. And then pretty early on, you can find like a talisman that's like stealing is even more effective. And I like put that on and I've never taken it off. And it's just like, he is my little thief and I bust him out and he takes stuff. And often it's like weapons, it's like really good stuff that you can steal from bosses and stuff.
Yeah.
Can we talk about Heismay and just like his entire arc, because that was a really, really just funny story. I don't know. Like I was not expecting that trajectory at all. So basically you get to the second town and they're like, there's this crazy guy we cannot capture him. He's kidnapping kids. He's completely untouchable. And you get all the way through this like scary dungeon where the monsters are like extra aggro and you don't get your bonuses for hitting them with weaknesses and everything. And you get to the end and Heismay's like a little bat. He's just like a little guy.
Cute. I love him.
With his little katana. He looks like a
and
little
just
samurai.
that moment of thinking you're about to go face this like hugely scary boss. I mean, there's like a silhouette in the bounty poster of just like this hulking monstrous dude or whatever. And you get there and he's just like this little guy. He's just a little guy.
And he's so composed and has the cutest little old man accent. Oh, I just love him so much. I liked that.
Yeah.
First I feel like we have to talk about getting to him because the characters say butthole a number of times.
This is a surprisingly
humor. Yeah, I love the levity that they bring to the game. When those
it's weird in a game like this that is very serious in tone and just very high stakes and seems so much more like high stakes and serious than like Persona games for the most part, which are all about high schoolers. Doing high stakes stuff, but they're still high schoolers. And yeah, there's so many moments in this. And yeah, the one you're referring to is they get eaten by like a worm and you just go out.
Which there's a guy
gotta
in
find
there.
the butt.
Will we see that guy again?
You do see him again.
Okay, cool. Because they went through all that effort to put him in there. And I was like, sir? Like,
he has
will
like
we meet
a weird job later. You'll see. He's a weirdo. Yeah. No, I like the corner said get to the anus, I think, the whole time you were in the sandworm. It's so dumb, but I love that. That's what you're doing. That's what you need to do one day.
You like stink for the entire time.
Yeah.
And Heismay talks about it. And then even just luring him out after he runs away was so funny.
Hilarious.
Like they're like, how do we get this guy? He's too fast. How do we get him? And they're like, well, he's got big ears. Let's just make a ton of noise. And it just quickly becomes like, let's yell all of the things we've been holding back saying about each other. Let's just yell a bunch of insults. And
it's so funny because it's like Stroll is talking about how Hulkenberg eats everything, which is like her defining character trait is she eats gross stuff, and she's complaining about him. And then you have like, okay, protagonist, what do you want to complain about? And I'm like, I wish Gallica was nicer to me.
It's so true.
Oh, that's so funny. And then first, before that, can I just say, like, when you're checking out his little tent, one of the options is to use his son's ashes to get him to come out. Like that was one of the
Oh,
options,
yeah.
was to take the ashes. And I was like, that's insane. I don't think they would let you do that.
Did anyone try that option? Because I'm sure they would have talked you out of it, just given the rest of the...
No.
I think every time hearing that Gallica talks you out of the other options with Luis, I feel like any other time they give me 3 options, there's just one good one. And if you suggest the other 2, they go, that's pretty crazy. And you're like, okay, this one.
You're wild for that one. Are you sure about that?
Which is like, I don't know if I love that. That's kind of something I don't like. Just have the one answer then. Why are we pretending? But did you guys realize when you're fighting Heismay, like the trick to knowing which one was the real one?
Was it the blinking?
No, it's so clever. He had a shadow.
He had a shadow.
And all the other ones didn't have
lucky
shadows.
Gallica like says it eventually,
Does
which
she?
happened to me. It was like if you just like keep being like, I don't know what to do. She's like, his shadow is different.
I thought it was to do something with like how he moves. Like it seems like 3 of them had an idle animation, then another one had a different one, and so I thought that was it for a while. But I like that. Oh, it's more like the puzzle. It's just like a puzzle instead of just straight up like hit this thing until it's dead. I love when they do stuff
I just
like
love
that.
that it was like, it seems like he's fighting me with reluctance and I'm sitting there getting my ass beat and I'm like, not enough. He could be more reluctant.
Yeah, he
I
like,
was thinking
comes
the
up,
same thing.
does a third
I was
of
like-
damage of your health, and it's like, I feel like he's holding back maybe. And I'm like, no, he's not. He just walloped me. I don't think I'm ready for this fight.
Yeah, like I figured out the trick pretty quickly, but and was like plenty prepared for the fight, but it was still like no fights in this game are just easy, like or at least as far as boss fights go. You can be very prepared for it and you will still feel like that was kind of tough by the end of it, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
This is something that I wonder if it's genre experience or not. I find the turn gems a kind of confusing system.
Yeah, me too.
And I feel like it wasn't super well explained, or it's like, I've played enough that I get it now, but it's like, okay, you have the number of gems that you have characters, but if you do like, if you attack with their weakness or do a critical hit, it only uses half a gem instead of the whole one. But if you attack and they block it, then it does like 2 gems, or it was just like a lot of kind of
Or if you miss,
working out
you
the
get
rules.
punished.
Yeah, and so it was like now I kind of understand that it's like, oh, it's a flexible system and there's a lot in there, but like I was just like, why do I have more turns sometimes than others? And I didn't feel like it was super intuitive at the beginning.
It took me a while to figure that out too, to be like, what's the math here? I don't understand
and
it
I
yet.
feel like the entire beginning of the game itself, it just, now that I'm 20 hours in, the entire beginning, I think back to it and I'm like, I'm so glad I don't have, that's not the entire game, right? Because like once you get like the runner, I feel like that's when the game actually starts to like be the game.
Yeah.
Like once you get to the first dungeon, because the beginning when you're like staying at campsites and you could walk around the campsite, is that ever going to happen again? Because they made it such a big point that you could like walk around the campsite, and I was like,
no, yeah.
what are we doing this
Yeah, well,
for?
you can
on
like
the
walk
runner.
around, the runner while it's
ship, yeah.
like parked.
Yeah.
But that's about it.
Just not a random forest locale, but it's you still get that downtime to like choose if you want to talk to somebody or have a bath or do whatever.
A lot of detail in this game that I feel like is just very... Honestly, I think there's a lot of it in here that's kind of unnecessary, that's very one-off like that. Anytime there's like, there've been like 2 runaway sections so far. There's been a stealth section, and I'm like,
I love
need
the
these.
runaway sections.
I do not, because I failed the first one really badly.
Wait, did you fight the dragon then? What was the first
No,
one?
you just get a game over and then it starts you over again.
Okay, but
The stealth section,
I want to
don't
know
need.
about that. In the first thing where it's just you and Grius and Stroll,
Yeah,
I
in the
assumed
mines.
that I would be able to come back to that dragon and fight it later. But
I mean, maybe.
I never tried.
I'm pretty far in the game. I feel like they would have let me at that point. And so they kind of were like, if you want, you could fight it. It's going to be really hard. And I was like, well, no, I'm not going to do that now. But I wonder, like, what would happen?
You get a really good sword early if you kill it.
And there hasn't
Did you
been
do it,
another
Haley?
like dragon
No, I
moment
learned about
for
it.
me.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I really just assumed that they were like really telling the truth. They're like, you stand literally no chance.
I
This
thought
is
so
new game
too.
plus only.
Yeah.
And so I did not I didn't even attempt. I didn't think it was
It's very similar
You know,
to the
it-
start of Baldur's Gate 3, where you go and you could kill that one demon guy in that room and get an insane flame sword that makes early game way easier, or you could just go touch the orb and skip all that. It's like up to you. And I definitely just touched the orb in Baldur's Gate 3 and did not fight the dragon here because I'm too much of a pussy. But
Yeah.
It's crazy to me that there are 2 difficulties higher than normal that I'm playing on, because I'm like, the game doesn't let you grind. Like, how are you gonna get stronger?
there's a really good way to grind later on, I will say. Like, I put on YouTube for 2 hours and I went up like 6 levels, had 1.5 million gold,
interesting.
and leveled up like 7 archetypes all the way to the max just by doing one thing over and over. It's super
my
gross and
gosh.
repetitive and like not
That's
fun,
disgusting.
but it felt
Yeah,
really
you
good
can
to get all
guys-
that levels.
I am playing
Well, you
on
can
easy,
sort of-
and I
Oh, are
play
you?
it genuinely. It's a really good time. I genuinely, I love it. Like, do I ever lose? No. Have I died? No. But I'm having a great time.
And that's
I
the
think
most
the
important.
game is difficult enough that like that is. I mean, it's always valid, but I also think that like normal difficulty is above a normal difficulty in
Yeah.
this game. Like I think it assumes you have some experience in like a Shin Megami Tensei or Persona, or I mean, no, I'm gonna just say Shin Megami Tensei because Persona is not like this. It's not this difficult.
Yeah.
I will say there's a stupid way to grind even early on, which is just anytime there's one of those crystals, you can just infinitely, like, those just
wow.
infinitely spawn
Enemy
things,
spawners?
but, like, you're gonna get 6 experience per one of those. So, like,
That's
you
essentially...
can sit there and do it over and over again.
If you want to know the strat, because it's not really a spoiler, it's just what you get to do later, is you be merchant. So anytime you hit somebody in the overworld, you get money. And then you can buy archetypal rings from a dude in I think it's the second city. And you put that on everybody, even though it's expensive, you just save the money and put it on everybody. And you get so much experience, like the archetype experience, and you find kind of like a decently high dungeon area that you just started to one-hit people in the overworld. Like, you know how they turn white or blue or
Yeah.
whatever it is?
Yeah.
Like, you fight a couple, and then the first time you see them turn blue, you should stay in that area because then you'll get maximum experience. And then there's also some areas that have 2 of them side by side. So you can just turn and destroy them all on one side and turn and destroy them on the other side. And you get hundreds of thousands of dollars in minutes. It's crazy, and you get so much XP. I did that I haven't played since I've done that, and I'm so excited to just like go out and see if I'm the buffest person alive now, because it was really boring. But I kind of love what game. Do you do that a lot, Kelsey, when you play JRPGs? You just take a little couple beats to grind and get OP?
I don't know that I ever grind that hard. Sometimes I do.
Yeah,
Like-
like, she's not that much of a sicko.
He has
okay?
integrity.
Yeah.
You have a
Not
life, I
always.
get it.
No, not always. I mean, yeah, like I think grinding is a time-honored tradition of
It
most
is.
JRPGs. So, like, yeah, of course. But that sounds a little extreme. Like, if it lets you get $1 million in.
But there's so
a
many
couple
things to
hours.
buy in the lake. Like later on, there are like things get expensive exponentially.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not like I'm just buying a bunch of revival things for 1,000. Like there'll be things that are 100,000 coins in one go.
Well, in part 2, I'll let you know how much I wound up grinding once I can.
I will say you like find better items than as what is sold also later on. So it's like, you can buy that expensive thing from a store and then you go to a chest and you're like, oh, well, that's a better
Oh,
sword.
it turns
Especially
pink.
if you're stealing stuff.
Yeah.
But I do think like because you are often cycling people through different classes, like you do need more equipment than you often do in a JRPG. So like, I need to not only have a good sword, I also need a good staff and a good gun and all of that stuff. And that does get expensive.
A good sword, staff, and gun.
If this isn't in this section, I can't remember. Was there the dungeon in this part where it was like, do not take a magic guy in
Yes.
because everyone will get pissed?
Yeah.
Yeah, did any of you guys do that just to see what would happen?
I messed
No,
up.
I
with that
haven't.
one,
I-
and
Okay.
they were pissed.
I did. Yeah, they're super pissed. They start with rage. They get like extra turns. It's nuts. Like you basically can't win if you
Yeah.
bring a mage.
I had to
Like,
leave.
So
I mean,
funny.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
You can maybe beat some of the like. You can maybe win a fight or two, but you cannot go through the dungeon that
Even
way.
when you have
It is-
advantage, like as soon as it's their turn, they're
Yeah.
like swoop, and they just completely kill you all.
I think it's interesting. I really like the overworld kind of real-time system where it's like if they're weak, you can just kill them, and if they're strong, you can get an advantage. But it is wild how many fights are like, okay, if I start with an advantage, I can get this done before you attack. And
Yeah.
if you hit me and you get the advantage, I am dead. Like, I am just, like, wiped out.
Yeah, it's a very strategy-heavy game. Like, it's definitely not... I mean, I haven't done any grinding, and mostly because I don't think grinding would help. Like, I've gone through and been like, oh, maybe I should do this side quest before I attempt this other one or whatever, because it shows you kind of, like, some little diamonds with how difficult each side quest is going to be. So I'm like, oh, I should do the 3.5 one before I do the 4 one or whatever.
Yeah.
The enemies will be a lower
And I feel
level,
like the
but
real grinding is getting the archetypes, because some of them will just give you huge advantages that you would not have had you not had that and then gone to the dungeon without it.
the levels are just like you just get 1 point up in 2 things, and
Yeah,
you don't
might
even
as well
get to choose
bathe.
one of them.
You genuinely get more if you have a bath than if you level up in this game, which is crazy.
Where is the bath? Because I bought this bath item.
It's on the back deck
did?
of the gunner.
It's in the
A
gunner.
little bit
Okay.
later.
But you can only use it at
it'll
nighttime.
unlock.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Want to know
I
a
was
little
like-
tip? If you take crap on the gunner on any day that ends with the number 5, you get a luck point for free.
I'm always looking for my
Whoa.
5 days so
Yeah.
the protagonist can take a little poop.
If you poop on the gunner
Wait, does
on
it-
the
does
15th or 25th, then he goes, yippee, and he gets a luck point for free.
Does that spend time?
No,
No.
Nice.
just free
Wait,
point.
how'd you
It's-
guys find
no,
that
it's
out?
not
Did
a
somebody
5
tell
day,
you
it's-
that,
I saw it
or
on
you just
Twitter.
take poos every day.
No, I wasn't taking poos, so I don't know.
I was not taking poops. I haven't taken a poop this entire time.
I didn't
my
realize that
God.
was an option.
You'll probably get like
Months.
20 luck when you finally do it.
We finally drop it.
I think it's actually any day divisible by 5. So you can also do like the 20th.
Oh, see, I didn't
also
even know
get
that.
you.
I thought it was ends at 5. I'm about to poop way more. Perfect.
Poop twice as often.
There is one tip that I have going forward, and it's like people are probably doing this anyway, but like even if there is like the characters are associated with archetypes, and so when you build your bond like with Stroll, you're like, oh, you got, the warrior class costs less to study or whatever. But especially characters that are not in your party, when you level up their bonds, you will get perks for the entire game that are
good.
game changing. Like fully, I mean, like an easy one is like Maria, you get to like level 3 and it's like cooking doesn't take any time. And it's like, well, that is huge.
Oh my God. Now I'll
and then-
cook.
and there are other ones that I won't spoil, but it's like I've gotten to a bond with them and been like, I cannot believe that I'm 35 hours into the game and I just got this. Like this changes strategy. So
That's
it's
why
always
I'm trying to grind the more stuff a little bit, because it does seem like I forget exactly what the last one did, but the when you do, I think it was the gunner one, when you level that up enough, I just remember being like, oh, this is like a really good bonus. I should maybe just always do these as fast as I
you
possibly
can just
can.
go to academia whenever you want. Was that the bonus you got for that? Instead of having to always go to more, you can just do it from the
Yeah,
menu?
yeah, yeah.
So, yeah.
You can
Yeah.
do all the because you can change classes that you have already that you had already studied from anywhere before that, but then now you
Oh.
just never have to go back to academia if you don't want to. So
Or more.
but there is a cat there.
Yeah.
So
You can pet it. You can pet the cat.
Yeah.
Is it
Read
Plateau
some
or
books.
Pangea? I can't remember what the cat's name is. It was one of those two weird words.
I don't think it's Pangea, but that would be a really fun
Good cat name. That's a good
Especially if
cat
you had kind
name.
of a big cat.
Yeah, a big fat cat named Pangea. That hits. I would do that. Yeah, no, I've been focusing in my free time on just leveling up bonds, because you do get the ability to look ahead and see what everybody has later on. And once you got that, I sat down for 15 minutes, just like, who's
wait,
gonna
I
be
didn't
my
know
best
that.
friend? Yeah, you probably have it, Jacob. You can go and
Oh my
look and
gosh.
see what everyone's bonuses are and choose which one is like worth it to you or not to level it up. Because there's definitely a couple I'm like, man, you can wait till New Game Plus, maybe. I don't really care. And other ones is like, what the hell? I'm becoming best friends with you just because I want that one level 8 thing.
I have a question for you guys, because this hasn't come up yet for me. In Persona games, when you spend time with someone, oftentimes it does not actually result in a level up in your, like, you know, in your bond. And you have to, like, know how to answer the questions correctly. And if not, it takes extra time. And oftentimes it takes 2 times anyways. So far, every time I have hung out with someone, it has resulted in a level up. Is that just always true, no matter what you say to them? It's
God.
just
You're just
it's
such
just
a good
the mag
friend.
bonuses if you pick the quote unquote correct ones.
I thought that it might have been like Persona because you'll be like, that seems boring, and you get like no points. Oh my god, you're the best knight in the world, and she gives you 4. Like I was like, do these do anything?
But I think
is it mag?
I think it's just mag.
It's
Yeah.
just mag.
Okay. Because that used to be in Persona was how much they like you or not. So they
Yes.
completely
Yeah, those were
changed it.
like good boy points for
Good
our
boy
friendship
points,
or whatever. But that's so nice.
It's
'Cause,
nice,
like,
yeah.
here's the thing, and any Persona players watching this will agree with me. It always soils the game a little bit because you kind of have to look up the correct answers.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you are wasting your time, and they don't give you a ton of time. So then you're like looking up, and you're like kind of seeing the scene before it happens, at least in some part, because you like at least know what you're going to be prompted with. And I always hated that because I was like, well, I don't want to be spoiled, and I don't want to have to look this up, but also I don't want to literally waste a day because I just didn't know the correct answer for this one. And there's always like 2 or 3 people who are very complicated, and like the correct answer is not the one you would think it was.
Like exams in Persona games too. I could never just answer the questions. I needed to cheat every single exam period.
No, there have been, I can't remember, there was some game site that wrote this up, but like there are a lot of efforts in this game to not have you look up stuff. And I've looked up very little, but it's like I haven't even really used, but there's that option where you can just hit the center button and it's like, here's a bunch of different class makeups that people have used to like get through this dungeon, which is such a cool, you know, kind of like a Dark Souls, like, you know, seeing the ghosts of other players, but like even more helpful. And it's like occasionally I have looked up a weakness just because I've been like, I don't want to try everything, but like for my first one of this genre, I don't feel like I'm in totally over my head. You know, it's like it really feels like it wants me to understand it and get through it.
I always love when games do that. Just like, no, you can just stay here and be comfy and don't look at your phone. Keep engaging with our product, please.
Although I did love like walking into a dungeon and being like, what did everybody else do? And they're like 2 levels above me and they all have like question marks in their parties. And I was like, I don't think I'm supposed to be here right now.
I think Kelsey, you said that though. It's like that's them at the end of whatever you're trying to do.
Yeah,
so
that
at least
is
you can feel a little bit better. That maybe you'll get there.
It's slightly less scary than it looks because those numbers are from when they finished the final boss of that dungeon, which you almost always like level up on that final boss. So it's probably only like 1 level higher than you actually are, but that especially at the beginning of the game, that made me so self-conscious. I was like, what am I missing? I am fighting everything.
Especially before the game came out, so you knew it was just other people like reviewing it, and you're like, oh god, they're
I was
all
like,
so
what
much
is
better
up
than
with
me.
these? And again, I consider myself fairly well read in JRPGs, and I was just like, what am I missing? Like, I assume everyone else assigned to this is a big JRPG person. Like, are they literally all this much smarter than me? And yeah, probably, but it's evened out a little bit more now. Now when I look at it, like, you'll see one outlier that's like, oh, I'm level 30, and I'm like, oh, I'm level 24 or whatever. But for the most part, it's like within a couple levels.
What difficulty you're on, so you can see like the sickos versus like me on easy, and it's like doing whatever we want.
To jump back a little bit, the fight that I still think was the hardest one, not gonna lie, was that Zorba one with the undead creatures. He kept bringing up back to life at the end of the Grand Trad dungeon, right before you fight that crazy Renaissance painting human. That one was so hard. I still have not gotten over how much harder. There's one a little bit later that I was like, oh god, I think I'm soft locked, but I thought I was with this one,
Did you have the healer with the light magic?
probably I just was bad at the game at this point. Maybe
I was on easy, but I was like, cast Hamas.
I did
Like,
have.
light,
Actually,
light,
no, I did have.
light.
My protagonist was a healer, and it was just because, so he brings up the zombie, and you pretty much have to focus the zombie so hard, because if you let it live more than one turn, it like becomes enraged and then you're boned. And it had me literally feeling like I was playing chess, where I was thinking ahead like 10 moves that, okay, I'll kill zombie A, and then by the time that one's dead, he'll do that. Like I was memorizing what if A is dead, then he does B. If B and A are dead, he does C. Like I was memorizing all his freaking action moves over and over again, to the point that I was going crazy. And by the time I finally killed him, it felt so good. And I really thought that was going to be this whole game. I'm a little bit more pleasantly surprised that it's not that crazy.
Was definitely a lot harder.
Yeah.
Because you don't have those options.
Yeah.
Like the first
well, you just don't have the tools.
was harder.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first, like, basically, the first entire dungeon and everything, all of that, so much harder than everything has been since. Just because, you'd now, as long as you are actually like exploring the archetypes and stuff, you have way more tools at your disposal. And especially once you start, getting into like 2 mages in the party at the same time, and you can cast things that hit everyone.
The best.
That becomes, I mean, things just, it is a wild difference in difficulty in some of those cases, because I went from every fight being at least like something I had to pay attention to like a lot of fights being like, well, as long as I've got the mana for this, like I can just kind of, cast ice on everybody over and over again, and then it's over before they can do anything to me.
Though often they will put like 2 guys who are weak to ice and 1 guy who absorbs ice. They'll put them in the same thing, so it's not like so easy.
Yeah.
My secret weapon, at least early on, was just the night skill First Aid, which was the heal that costs only 2 MP as long as you do it outside of battle. And I'd be like, this is great. This is basically healing for free. And it's like the knight doesn't use that much MP otherwise. And so I would have like, one of them is like the brawler doing those big like HP sucking attacks, and then just like give it all back.
Wait, I never got that. I feel so dumb because I still don't, and I kind of like, what do you mean outside of
you
battle?
have that. It's I think it's either just
right
I'm
on the
a
D-pad.
Steam Deck.
Oh, just up on the directional pad or whatever?
Yeah, it's either up
but
or
it's like
down or
when you
something
do
on the-
magic outside battle, it's like it's a healing spell that only works outside of battle.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense. I thought I was like, you have to pause the game and then do it or something. And I was like, I'm just never going to do this because I don't want to Google what this means. And I never tried again.
No, it's 2 buttons. It's just
Okay,
like a, heal. Would you like to heal? Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I do like that whenever there's games that have abilities that use HP, I never really want to use them because I'm too precious about health. But it's fun that this game is like, I'll have Stroll just absolutely using 1/3 of his HP per hit, and I don't even care that much if he's almost dead. I'm like, keep punching, use all your energy, like, because you could just heal so quick. Especially once you get medium heal, like when you get Maria pretty leveled up with the healer stuff, you can just, I use, honestly, Hulkenberg's like my main healer for most of the game, and she can just heal everyone medium style. It just brings Stroll back up to 100%. I just do it again.
Yeah, she gets a really good magic knight. Well, I guess anyone who does magic knight. But, we've all established that Hulkenberg
She's
can
the
only
knight.
be a knight.
Yeah.
The magic knight gets a really good just like small heal to entire party thing after a little while. And it's a game changer. It's like, okay, cool. Like even mid battle, I don't have to be like rationing healing items. Although I have plenty of healing items. I just don't have
So many.
I don't have enough turns to use all my healing items. Like the only useful ones are the like fairy ones that heal everybody. So
yeah, I'm so lazy. Even outside of battle, I won't just go in and use my health items. I just use the heal everyone ? Yes.
Same.
Can we talk about so we talked about the Heismay part of the plot line with the stealing kids. The rest of that plot line is some
crazy.
wild stuff so basically you're like, you join the tournament of democracy, and they're like, okay, it's the Tri-Wizard tournament. Your first
Which is so
job
funny
is to go
that they
kill
put
a
this all
human.
together. Yeah. And the way that they were like, okay, the way that they organized immediately
I
this
know.
tournament.
Was so
Like, if
quick.
I was like Lewis and the church, I would have shut that down immediately. Because the last thing you want is competition. And immediately they were like, let's have a competition. Like, I was shocked that now
Well,
you're doing,
they
like, the
allude
Triwizard
to it.
tournament.
They allude to it being rigged. They're like, the fact that they put this on, like, it must mean the church has some stuff up its sleeve, because they wouldn't just, like, they're not into actual democracy. This is just their way of making it look fair, and then they'll take it in the end.
Yeah.
But so they're like, okay, everyone go kill a big monster. That's your first thing. Go kill a big
Love
monster.
that.
And Stroll often acts like the protagonist of a JRPG in that he kind of makes all the decisions for your party all the time. Like, he's just like, here's what we're gonna do. He's just like
some guy too. Like all the other characters.
no, he's a
have, like,
noble.
connections.
he's
And
kind of a
just
silver
guy.
spoon baby.
He's a noble
Yeah.
of a burned down
well,
town.
and-
Cannot get over like
and
how
that-
we just picked Stroll up off the ground and was like, I guess the guy's in the party now.
It fits the personality, right? So he
Yeah.
was born with a silver spoon, and thinks he hit a double. That's how you combine those phrases.
Yeah. Loki, one of the coolest cinematic moments of the game is in like the very first Not Even a Dungeon, where you're with him and Grius and you're fighting that kind of commander guy, and it does like the camera swing around and suddenly they're like not in the dungeon, they're like standing in his burning village. I was like, whoa! And the game has never done that again, as far as I can
That's
tell.
true.
But yeah, he's like, okay, we're not gonna hunt a monster. We're going to get like a monster of a person. We're gonna get like whoever's kidnapping people. And so you go to the town and you think it's Heismay, and you find out it's not Heismay, and then it finds out that it's one of the town guards who's kidnapping children because the town's countess, is that her title? Like
She's
the
like a
town's
saint.
She's a
matriarch.
Saint Effect. She's a Saint Effect's like noble leader or
That's
something.
yeah. Had
What's her name? I can't remember.
It's like Joanna or something.
Oh
like that?
yeah,
Joanna.
Joanna. Yeah.
Joanna had a baby with
That was the first red flag.
The first red
fact
flag
that
had a baby.
Literally, you walk in and they're like, "Oh, by the way, she never had any kids," and that's a JRPG red flag right there. When they're like, "She never had any children," you're like,
It's like neither did Hulkenberg. Why are you mentioning it?
"Yeah."
But then you find out that she did have a kid. She had like a mixed race kid that was killed by someone in the town. And then because of that, she has adopted a human, horrible, giant, hideous baby that she's been feeding all the like kidnapped kids to. And it's so crazy that it's just like, here's a plot point about them just killing kids. And no one at any point is like, hey, this giant baby human, that would be a pretty good thing to bring to the tournament. You know?
Yeah.
They're like, we're gonna bring a person, and then you stumble into something that would blow everyone's minds. Or you're like, not that one. We're just gonna bring her to the next.
At least bring both, right? Like, come on.
Well, and then they started like to feel bad. Like they tried to like liken Heismay's situation to Joanna's, and I was like, Heismay didn't kill anyone when his kid died.
Heismay got
Joanna
very sad and
massacred.
became a hermit.
Yeah.
Hermit Heismay.
And it's like they tried to make Joanna like kind of make you feel bad for her, and I'm like, this is literally she's a murderer. Like I I understand what happened.
Dozens of children.
Although I will say, like, I teared up a little bit at the end of that fight.
I was about to reveal my hand too and be like, it kind of worked on me. Sorry, Sarah.
Yeah.
I said take her to the guillotine.
The point of this plot is that, like, grief, and especially the grief of losing, like, a child, makes you do crazy things. And Heismay's was, like, less crazy in that he simply ran away and was like, I'll simply never speak to a person never again for as long as I live. Which is, like, that's a more, a more realistic
way to go
crazy,
about it.
like that's something that someone might actually do in real life as opposed to harbor a demon baby and kill children. But yeah, like it was a very like touching scene about grief and how it makes you crazy. And at the end, she's like, I mean, she literally is like, it's like a fog is lifted. This was insane. Like, I can't believe I was so insane. I just, had never processed actually losing this child.
Yeah.
And it's like, it is messed up the way they set up her story. I mean, again, she was so excited about this baby. It was like she was not supposed to have relations with another race. So that was like a big thing. And her family was like, basically her family was happy the baby was murdered because they were like, well, now we don't have to explain anything. So this is fantastic. Super glad that baby died. And so she was like, oh, it's good when babies die? Okay, bet. Like, and starts killing babies, basically.
Yeah.
And
No, I agree that I think the plot point works, and it actually is. It is similar to my favorite bits of Infinite Wealth, basically, where it's like we refuse to turn anyone into just a monster. That like they will have a thing. Yeah, but I do think that the game does not actually have that approach for everyone. And there are a lot of people in the game who are just monsters. And so for them to extend this amount of empathy to the like ultra child killer lady who all people deserve some level of empathy. Like, I'm not saying she doesn't, but then there are other people where they're like, that guy's just horrible. We gotta kill him. I mean, their whole thing is like killing Louis.
Like, my question is they're like, they want you to get Heismay as kind of like their fall guy. But when we leave with Heismay, they're still going to kill children. Like, the baby needs to keep eating. And she's like, oh, it's just too bad about what's happening to my town that I'm actively doing. So, like, what was the plan after that? To just find, another serial killer's popped up in our town. Like, oh,
yeah,
my God,
I think the plan was that they were not supposed to succeed. Like, they were, but I guess then why lure people there at all? Yeah, well, why put a bounty on it?
But you're right, because they were told to go out in a sandstorm, but actually it was like bad that they went out in a sandstorm.
And they got eaten by the worm, which I would sure Borden or what was the bad guy's name who led
Morris,
them there? Morris. He probably thought they were dead when they got eaten by a worm. So like, fair enough.
Yeah.
But they went out its asshole. But
I guess maybe to keep the like suspicion alive, you have to lure people out there and get them killed and be like, this Heismay guy, he's crazy. He's just too much. We'll never be able to stop him.
I really.
But they were going to run out of children at some point, which I'm curious.
They're going to run out of a town at some point.
Yeah. But what's the plan when the child's still hungry and there are no more children left to feed it, and then there's no more?
Why not feed the adults sometimes?
Well, because her child had to die, so she.
I thought it was just because kids were easier to kidnap.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, that's
it is called kidnapping. Yeah, that's fair. I kind of
I was expecting the child to like eat her.
I really thought that would have
been a more fitting end for her, but like, it didn't. I didn't know why the kid wasn't eating her. I was a little sussed out.
It was his mommy. That was his mom. He was leaning down and cuddling her so nicely.
But that is, again, it's another thing that raises questions, because it's like, okay, this is a human who we've all decided are like these crazy, grotesque beasts, but like it clearly has some kind of consciousness, like it's,
I guess it just understood
that's a mom.
It understood the food source, I guess.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
That's true.
I definitely get a lot of, when these things pop up, I feel like there's a lot of Attack on Titan in this. Both, I mean, it's just like in the first city, which is just this giant walled city, I feel like is, I'm just thinking of it. But like the kind of like, okay, this is just recognizable enough to make me like really uncomfortable. But also those like flashes of like, is there someone in there? Like, is that, how much can this thing really think is disturbing?
Well, the first one is like one giant thing, and then a crown of 3 guys walking around, and an egg that breaks open with 20 guys in there having a business meeting. Like, who's who? Is it one big thing?
Frogs in the egg?
Yeah, there was like
like when the egg makes little frogs.
Yeah, but
and then sometimes it's just a fish with human legs.
Yeah. Or like a bird that's like sticking out of half an egg, like it.
Again, they're all Hieronymus Bosch allegories for sin. Like and so I am curious if it ever will explore that and be like, just towards the end of the game, if it's just like, yeah, there used to be humans and they used to be normal and they sinned so much that they became these horrible monsters that we see now, or if it's just basically, I don't know if it's going to be like the literal actual Bosch allegories or if it's just going to be like, we took these insane monster designs from this guy.
Yeah. I think it might be the latter, but I'd be pleasantly surprised if it was the former. Like, I'd be fine if it was the latter, but we'll see.
There's also the crazy, again, we haven't touched on this, like
There's
the
so
idea
much.
of archetypes, which like the protagonist starts and then everyone who comes in contact with him kind of is able to.
Copies.
But it's like which Persona is it where they have to like shoot themselves in the head?
3, right?
3.
Yeah.
Three.
Best one.
It's like, I haven't played Persona, but I know that's the game
That's
where they also like shoot
insane,
themselves
by
in
the
the head to do,
Well, it's not like they don't literally shoot themselves in the head. It's
They don't rip their heart out
You have to
here.
So
invoke
it's the best one.
they rip their heart out and it's like a microphone.
Yeah.
And then they're like, they're
And
yelling
they get into
their
their like
heart's
poses.
desire into it.
They're like, I'm going into battle. I'm giving a speech pose. They all have a different pose.
Oh, the best. And do they even have that tech in the world? Are there microphones in this world? They're horse and buggy still.
But they make allusions all the time to like,
That's true.
whoa, there's this ancient tech, which is again why I wonder if the humans are going to like, we're going to find out eventually that the humans like literally were just like regular, like this is all happening after humanity, basically.
Well, that would make sense because all the town, like you pass all the, when they always stop and in between a mission to a dungeon, it's like a photo-esque location and you're really far back and you're looking at it with them. Most of those are just like decimated cities that they go, isn't this sad? And no one's like, what's the history here? What happened? They're like, I think a human destroyed this. Oh man. Anyways, I'm like, there's millions of houses in front of you. And you're just going to go, what happened? Time to go to Grand Trad, which is 1 millionth the size
that
of this.
sign says Florida.
That's the Statue of Liberty sideways in the dirt on the beach. Where am I? It's just like, it very much gives like, do you guys have one single textbook anywhere that details history?
No, we've
Nobody
established
reads.
they have
We
one
have
book.
the only book.
there's only one like novel really. I guess
have
there's
it.
technically a couple novels on the runner, but
There's more books.
Yeah, there's more books, but there's only one important
yeah.
one.
but I mean like in the world they're like the church bans. I mean Moore talks about this all the time. He's like the king did not want these books out there. Like here's this giant library. He didn't want anyone to see any of this.
Was it the king or the church, do you think?
I think now it's the church, but Moore said he was put in there by the king.
So why is the king such a dick the whole time he can do things? And then once he's like on his deathbed, he's like, I'm going to be the best king like ever. Just wait.
It
It's like, what
sounded
the hell?
like from the opening cutscene, I think it sounded like he was like learning that he had been a dick and that there was a better way.
A little too late.
Is my
That's what we
interpretation
call the
of
American
it.
president problem.
Oh, it's just like,
God. Oh, and I love that like when you go into battle, at the top of the page it is like the king's head looking down every
Yeah.
time you open.
Yeah.
It's like
Oh, the
giant
UI.
meteor. Ugh.
the skill points
that's
being a little
incredible.
crown that gets bigger over time. Shut up. That's
I
so
like-
good.
I like before you have an archetype, you don't even have like the real pause menu. And then when you get it, it's like a couple hours into the game
that
where you
true?
pause it. And then you see,
What?
yeah, it's like if you, when you're just doing that little like run around with Stroll and you're both just like fighting with your swords, like if you pause it, it's just like a placeholder pause screen.
Oh,
and so then
what?
when you finally get the archetype and you see that whole thing, I was like, whoa!
That's cool. I didn't even notice that. I don't know. Did I even pause? Because that would have been such a letdown to be like, wow, their UI's really gotten worse since the last game.
I
They're
remember
just
being
like, wait.
like, I paused and then I paused again. I was like, whoa, where did all this come from?
Oh, it's just so the way it goes like swoosh-wah, and then when you go into each person, they're doing like the Vitruvian man arm lift up, and then all their stats are underneath. Everything's just so juicy and good. I would love for us to like do an interview with just the UI art team and be like, where do you
They're
guys
really caring.
What do you guys
The
look
game's
at?
good, but the UI is incredible.
It's the best.
They did some interview where I believe the quote was like, "It's really fucking annoying." Like when they were asking, like, hey, how do you design all that UI?
It's so valid, and all the sounds are so good. It's never just like a click. It's like a and it's like and it opens up like crazy. And I'm like, yes, again, more. I just want to open it and close it over and over. Ugh.
I love the UI, but also if every game started learning from this, I would be so annoyed. Like,
You
I'm
think it'd be
glad
too
this
much?
is one game that's doing it like this, and please don't put this in every game. You know, like please don't make every UI this flashy.
I think it's too much work. Yeah, I don't think they will.
That's an interesting point. I wonder if we would start feeling like enough. God, it's like the peacocking of the game dev world. This really flashy UI.
I mean, I do feel like I played enough Persona 5 and then followed by this. That's where it started to hit me. I was like, again, this is super cool. There's so much talent here. This is very cool and interesting, but also like if it just stays you guys, great. But if like other game devs start being like, that's a really popular game, maybe I should do some insane UI, I'm gonna start getting really annoyed.
It's valid. Yeah, another thing I really loved was when oh wait, that might be too far ahead. I was about to spoil something, but Fortin's monster he brings is super stupid. It's just like a fun thing to look forward to. Just like, what? Why that? When humans exist. Anyway, sorry. Side point.
I want to talk about Bridget and her. That's her name, right? The merchant.
The merchant.
Or what is it? Brigitte.
I only think of that because of Overwatch.
Like the magic shop lady.
Like the Overwatch.
Yeah. Her like your bond with her is so weird and interesting. You're basically like she's this like very powerful, important lady who can basically just dictate whether or not you're allowed to shop.
She's like the biggest arms dealer in Grand Trad or something. Yeah.
But she hates them. She's like, I hate these things, but I deal with them. Yeah. I like the money.
Yeah, and her like so far her entire arc is like, I picked up this stupid dog. I don't even like it. But if anyone found out about this dog, they'd do horrible things to it. I need you to just dog sit for me. And then she's like she's like annoyed every time you like the dog, basically. If you're like,
and that the dog likes you.
Yeah, she's just like,
oh, of course it likes you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
This idiot dog doesn't just trust anything. I don't know, just not at all the direction I thought that Bond was going to go.
Mm-hmm.
I technically this is possible, but I don't want to spoil it if you haven't got there, Kelsey. Have you done anything with Alonzo, who's the guy when you get pickpocketed in the city, and then he's like, oh, I can help you get that back?
I have accepted the quest, but haven't done the
Okay, because I think you need like a 2 in something that takes a while.
I think it was like imagination or something like that, and it took me a little bit to get up there, so I have accepted the quest now, but I haven't actually done it.
His journey, I won't say anything except it goes from 0 to 100 so fast.
It really does.
It is so wild.
I'm so excited because I did accept that quest, and then he just kind of gives you like the archetype, and then he just like leaves, and I was like, wait, no.
And he's like, I like doing little schemes. You might say I'm a liar.
He's like, have you considered? And then he like offers his services for King. He's like, I can be your little liar man, and I'm like, okay. Welcome on board.
The little liar man.
I'm Mumford and Sons, little liar man. Who have you guys been like choosing to bond with first? Who's top of the list?
Heismay.
I like
Heismay the most.
His bonds are really. Oh, all his story stuff is just so good.
Yeah, his stuff is good. Stroll's is like I feel like I'm actually doing something when you're like helping Stroll recover his lost. But it's so boring for his character, I feel like, personally. His entire thing was like, oh, I was a little lord, and now I realize all the work my parents did and how hard it is for people to trust on you. And I'm like, okay, like, I'm gonna go hang out with Heismay, and we're gonna go sit in his tent and put his son to rest.
Talk about his dead son.
Dead son some more.
I do really like Stroll as a character, and I like the places that his Bond quest goes, but it is just kind of like, he's a good guy, and that is kind of his character.
Like, it's kind of a like normal JRPG thing, smack dab in the middle of like, and I think that's fine. Like, it's probably good that a couple of them are normal. I mean, you mentioned like a dragon earlier. It's like there are a couple of things in that are normal, and everything else is crazy. So like that's probably the correct mix.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like him as a character too.
I just thought the Stroll and Hulkenberg ones were the most normal, which was weird because they're like your ride and dies right away. Like, why not make like the Katarina ones like normal, or the Brigitte one normal, who's kind of like C tier?
you kind of like not literally have to, but like the game really kind of pushes you into bonding with, you know, your ride or dies. And so I think it makes sense for those guys to be like your normal pillars of being normal, and then everything else can be.
Yeah, and it's like they have a lot of time in the game's proper story to do character stuff as well, where like, you know, Brigitte kind of doesn't exist outside her like Bond quests.
She stands there in
in
Grand Trad Street, but that's about it.
I like the what's the Gauntlet runner's driver's name?
Nurus.
Nurus.
He's fantastic.
I love him.
Whenever you give Nurus one of his little like crystals that he's looking for, and he's like, "Gadzooks!" It's so funny.
Well, then you get like a really cool thing for the Gauntlet Runner too. Whenever you do his stuff,
Yeah.
like the bombs that go off at the start of every battle on the Gauntlet Runner, and that's so cool. I'm a little tired of doing. No offense to Grias and Maria, his child. I'm a little like I always have to go there and be like, it's okay.
Her dad died,
so
Sarah.
good.
Her dad just died in front of the
I
whole
know, but
town.
I'm tired.
It's
She's
embarrassing.
always so needy. She's like, I wish I could talk to you today, and I'm like, okay, let me clear my schedule.
But then you can cook really quick because a child likes you, because that makes sense.
I do like her little wings. She's like a mixed
She's a cutie.
race. You know, I forget what the name of the winged people are, but I think her having the little tiny baby wings is very cute.
It's so cute. I leveled Maria up really quick because I was scared. If I'm going to be honest, I was scared and I thought I needed a healer to sweet. And I just wanted to level that up as fast as possible.
But you basically don't need a healer proper at least so far at any point in the game.
You get enough
I feel like you just
items
get it for the bonus actions.
Yeah, it's true. Like just using light whenever you need it kind of thing. But I leveled up Maria really fast, and then I just chose Hulkenberg just because I thought she was cool. I still think Hulkenberg's so cool. I love her. Young Hulkenberg in that one cutscene.
With she had like shorter hair.
Yes, bring back the Bob Hulkenberg. That was turning a look. Should go back. I just love how guilty she is with herself all the time. She can never just be like, I'm doing a good job. She's like, that one day, a decade ago, I slipped up. Oh, and and then she eats food. She has all these like dumb little quirks about her. Like when she sees Juna, she kind of like fangirls a little bit and breaks character.
Right, yeah.
That one's
all
really
that stuff.
I was like, is this the closest they'll get to acknowledging a gay character?
That's what I thought too. Yeah.
I like the bonding thing with her where she's doing like drills with you and Stroll, and she's like, get down on the deck and crawl.
Yeah. No, because they're doing like the bear crawls.
Ugh.
But in the game they call it a beast crawl, and it's like actually something that like I've had to do working out. But they call it
Gosh, I didn't know that was a real thing.
Oh, it's a real thing. It's terrible.
I'm like, they're doing bear crawls, and then she calls it a beast crawl, and then she makes me do planks, but she calls it something else, and then she sits on them. And I was like, my queen!
Yeah. What do you guys feel about there being no romance in it at all? Because that's a first for Atlus, right?
Kind of like
Refreshing.
it. So I like that I'm being friends with them without like the intentions.
I like it
ill
too.
intent.
Yeah.
It's like I don't think the protagonist has enough of a personality for me to like believe it. You know,
Anyone
it's just
wants
like
him.
That's
like,
true in like all the Persona games too, which is like I love Persona games, and I think that often the romances end up fairly sweet, but like they require some imagination because the protagonist often does not have much of a personality. So it's really just like whatever the person is, you know, is bringing to the table, whatever the other person you've chosen is bringing.
it requires imagination because they're all in high school.
Well,
Yeah, that's the other
This one
thing.
you could have had of-age relationship.
It's really nice to
don't
not
want
have any of
those.
that. Like, there was some gross stuff in 5. Like, the teacher who, like, wants to have a relationship with you. And then, what's her name who has the orange hair, who's kind of like your pseudo step little sister, and she's also 13. You can romance her, too. There's just, like, a bunch of, like, what the hell? Yuck. Like, kind of in it. It's just really nice that... Yeah, no, none of that. They're all friends. They want to be the king together and solve crimes. None of that.
They just want to kill a guy.
Just want to kill one guy.
It's
Let
so
them do it.
uncomplicated.
Kill a guy. I will say, like the numbers, you guys are farther, so there's probably a resolution to this, but the rank that you get for what place you are, it goes down really fast. Like, I am down, I think by the time you leave the second city, you're down to like 3 digits. And then by the time you hit the second city, you're at 2 digits. And I'm like, does it hit 5 and then it just stalls out forever? Because I'm like, we're moving. Like, is nobody else trying? Because we do like the littlest things, and it's like 200. I gave a kid a flower, and it was like 200 points for Gryffindor.
Yeah. I think kind of like a real life presidential campaign. It's like it wouldn't be that hard if you wanted to come in 100th place in like president, but it would be hard if you wanted to come in like first. 7th place, you know? So it's like, yeah, it does get, the increments get much smaller as you get closer to the top.
Yeah. It slows down rapidly. Very, very rapidly. But yeah, I did that flower thing too, and it went up by like 400. I was like, who are you telling about this? Like you save the whole town of Martira or whatever, it goes up by 200 or something, and you give a little kid a flower. It's like, wow.
It's all about optics.
It's all about the optics. But yeah, no, who else have I been left? Stroll I thought was cool, and Heismay's is probably my favorite. Heismay's probably my favorite character in of himself, totally. Like, to backtrack to that scene where he was being really empathetic with Joanna, and like, yes, she's a baby killer. You got me there. Not gonna question that crud.
Who of us isn't?
Who of us hasn't? But I really viewed that scene as more like trying to rationalize why she's so messed up than forgive her sins. Like, they're all like, oh my God, yuck. Like, how are you doing this, you gross, disgusting monster? And Heismay's like, not that I'd ever do it, but I see the resemblance of maybe why she did this, and like connects to her that way. I thought that was really nice, and I can see why he then doesn't do that to Luis, because Luis is just kind of like, there's no real empathetic leveraging to why he is the way he is. He's sort of just like, wouldn't it be cool if the world was where everyone who's the strongest is the best? By the way, I'm the strongest person in the whole freaking country. It's like, I wonder why he wants to do that. There's like no connection there, but it also makes sense for Heismay to be the one to do that, not like Hulkenberg or something, considering he's so freaking sad about his kid, that it was like I was kind of like, oh, this is actually really, really nice. And kind of why I wanted to extend this to not just the first city, but the second city, because I was like, I really want to talk about Heismay in the first one. So that's like low-key why I was like, can we push it to be 2 instead of 1 just for him?
Also, the first city, I don't want to say it's like kind of boring, but it's like boring. They're establishing a lot within that first city. Like the lore, the world, like how everything works, like archetypes, like it's just a lot of like getting you to like getting knowledge about things. And then when the story kicks in and they all start talking, you're like, okay, this is a much better experience.
Well, the first 2 hours of this game are just cutscene galore. Like, it's really a movie until you really get going. And even when they give you swords and all you can really do is hit things with sticks for a little while. It's not until you get an archetype and you leave Grand Trad, they're like, time to play the game.
I mean, and I will say, basically any time you leave a city and get to a new city, prepare for a movie. You know, like that happens multiple more times in the game where it's like, oh my gosh, I haven't like been able to like run around in the overworld for like 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
I miss hitting things. Forget about it.
I miss like having things on my calendar, you know? I hate when like I finish everything and then you're like, okay, time to watch a cutscene.
I do love the story though. Like, as much as it is kind of a bummer when you haven't fought things in a while, when it does get to those movie bits, you're like, oh, right, time. What's Luis gonna say? And then he's all dramatic and moody. Like, I'm very invested, and I also have no freaking idea how this thing's gonna end, which I love when media's like that.
You're 50 hours in.
I don't know.
That makes me worried.
I don't know.
That's red flag for me. Red flag.
Bro,
flag
wait till you get to
flag on the field.
Right in the middle of this game.
Is there some how long to beat
Isn't it like 80?
data now?
I think it's 80 something. I really keep in mind I'm doing that gross grinding strat, so I've wasted probably 4 or 5 hours.
I think that my guess is I'm probably going to be more like 65. I don't know how close I am, but it's like I like read fast. I like go through the conversations, and I haven't been doing the gross grinding.
Yeah. I'm too scared to die.
But I assume you're doing like side quests and stuff too.
Oh, I mean, I'm still using every day. Like, it's, you know, I'm still, you know, getting all the juice I can out of the orange.
Yeah, but I like when they give you one of those little anime cutscenes and it's so crispy, good looking. Those are so sparse and far between, especially as the game gears up later on. But when you get them, it's like I'm watching anime. I'm not even playing a game anymore. I'm just watching a season of a show. I love that I don't know what's going to happen, and I truly don't. There's a middle part in this game where S hits the fan for like 2 hours straight, and you're just like, what the hell is going on? Like, Jesus Christ. Like, it's the only other person I know that's playing this game besides y'all and is that far is my partner's brother. And it was like 2 a.m, and I messaged him. I'm like, I just got to the blank part. What the hell? Like, there's moments like that where you're going to want to, like, please text me each when you get to the part I'm talking about, because you'll know, because so much stuff
I think
happens.
I'm there. Yeah.
Yeah, in this fan, and there's 20 million plot twists in a row, and you're just like, oh my god. It was like 2 a.m. for me. I was in bed just like gasping every few seconds. It's so good. So the story is still gearing up even 60 hours in, which is crazy. There's no semblance of like a time to come down to the finale. It's like it's just getting crazier and crazier.
And Haley, you think this is your game of the year?
I think so. I really love it. Like, Infinite Wealth was my game of the year up to this point, because I just love those characters so much too. And still credit to you, Kelsey, because I wouldn't have played 7 if you hadn't told me to. And 7 and 8 were so freaking good. It was really like playing one big game in a row. Like, sometimes I wonder, am I really thinking about 7 plus 8 as my game of the year? Because they really truly just bleed into each other as one game if you do that, which is a little unfair.
Infinite Wealth is better than the first Like a Dragon, though, at least just in terms of all the quality of life stuff. Anyways, that's not what we're talking about, but but yeah, I mean, I also really love that game. I'm still, this has been such a banger year. I really just I don't know. Like, you know, there's almost always a JRPG at the top of my list, and this is probably going to be the one that, you know, trends the highest on my list, but there's so many freaking good games out this year.
There's just something about this one though that I've been so engrossed by it, unlike any other game I've played in quite a while, like possibly since Baldur's Gate last year, where I need to play, like, as soon as I'm done work, I turn on this game and play it, or alternative Baldur's Gate. It's like, I need to know what happens next. And it's like so fun when you still have that sort of passion feeling for something in your 30s, as depressing as that sounds, because sometimes you have to chase that feeling wherever you can get it.
I will say I'm loving this game. Obviously, I've played a lot. I think that the progression of this game is what has really drawn me in, and I think a lot of the writing in this video game kind of falls into like good for a video game category. And it's like, when I think about 1,000 Times Resist is head and shoulders above this game in terms of like the actual construction of its world and characters and story. And it's like, that is not to say that, you know, Metaphor is bad or anything, but I do think that, like, you know, and this is personal as well, but it's like the way that this game is thinking about its major themes does just feel very fantasy anime to me, in that it's just like, oh, we're all so different, but we're all the same, and like that's as far as it'll go. And so I'm excited to see what happens at the end, because I want to see if it will kind of interrogate some of its premises a little more so. But like it's character moments and like the leveling and battle system that has like really got its hooks in me. Honestly, in kind of the same way I feel about like Infinite Wealth, which I think like as a whole, I think that story is pretty messy. But like every time there's just like a time for two characters to talk to each other, I was like, yes, I love this.
I'll like Google GIFs of Ichiban and Kiryu and just like cheer myself up. Like, that's so telling. I just love that. The other day I tweeted, just because I was looking up pictures of Kiryu and I found one I liked. I was like, I'm going to tweet this picture of Kiryu like he's my boyfriend or something. Like that. They're just, when there's good characters, that's really is what draws me in. If the characters are good, it kind of becomes my game of the year, so to speak. And I get what you're saying, Jacob, how it kind of I really hope it doesn't lead up to this crescendo and then sort of like Detroit Become Human It or something. You know what I mean?
What a good comparison.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, they had a thing there, but it didn't end the way I wanted. Like, I can see this going up to be this really good thing that I love, and I don't know where it's going to go, which I also love. but I just have to wait and see. It's one of those ones that I don't think you could ever like give an opinion on this until you roll credits fully, because it kind of sucks when a game's as long as this. I feel so bad for the people that had to get reviews out like the week that this came out, because Jesus, you must have played this for 20 hours a day. But it's just so much of its story is why it's good, even though the rest of it is also really good. So I don't know. What about you, Sarah?
I'm just hoping I don't run out of steam on it, honestly, because I feel like the dungeons can get a little repetitive. Like, they'll kind of change, but they don't change. So I haven't yet, and like fingers crossed, playing on easy, it will keep the fatigue away a little bit of just like the fight after fight after fight. I am interested in the story. Mostly, I feel like I'm just hanging on to get Juna in my party because I just want her in my party so bad, and like I'll do whatever it takes at this point.
You'll love her. She's great.
But yeah, I did get in a fight with the tax man, because you know how like each of the people are like really like they're all like flat in terms of like what they want. Like Katarina's thing is like, let's eat the rich. And then there's a guy that's like, no taxes. No, and that's his entire platform. Yeah. It's just like, no taxes for anyone. I had to do like a debate against him.
I did that too.
When I catch that man. Because I said that the only people who benefit from not paying taxes are the rich. The game told me I was wrong. And I got 1 point, and I was like, when I can catch you, tax man, watch your back.
I had that same thing happen where I was debating the guy who wanted to like give free beer to everyone. And I was like, maybe free beer would harm society. And the game's like, you idiot, that's what he wanted you to say.
Yes! No, I feel like it's like a very Japanese perspective too, because they were like, how will we get, the second town was like Matria. They're like, how will we help Matria? And I was like, invest in industry. And they were like, incorrect, make a little local treat. Incorrect signature treat. And I was like, excuse me?
I got that one wrong too. I was like, obviously invest in industry.
And they're like, actually, invest in a little snack.
But see, did you play the Doko Demo whatever island thing in like a Dragon Infinite Wealth? It's all about making those little
Japan
treats.
Loves a little signature treat, dude.
Very
true.
I
find myself like tripping on the one dimension of it with like my own cultural perspective of like living in America during this time, right? Like I find myself tripping up a little bit.
You want like a Disco
like,
Elysium
no,
set up
like
to tell you what points go into what ideology you believe in. And you get really upset if any of the points are like really problematic ones. You're like, whoops, my bad.
I would love if Metaphor was like, you goddamn centrist. Look at you liberal.
That would be this would be a game that would benefit from that type of gameplay though so much. It's like, what type of king are you? And it's dependent on how you respond to problems. Oh, what a great thing to implement here.
I laughed so hard. Again, talking about heart exactly in the right place. I pulled out of its chest. But like when it was like, if I expand my tolerance, I'll be able to talk to more people from more cultures. I was like, oh, so you have like a racism bar that you make go down over the course of the game.
You also experience more racism than anyone else in the society, and you still need to like remind yourself to not be racist.
I love that it starts. You know, I can't remember exactly where it starts, but it's like inflexible or something. It's like your first thing on the tolerance meter. I'm like, I guess he's a racist until he like tries some more food from different cultures.
Let's see, here's
I've
a couple
always thought
stories.
That was so weird in all of the Persona games, the way they frame it like that, because it's like, well, if I'm answering everything correctly in the non-racist way or whatever, then I'm clearly not like the protagonist, like, it says that, but you never act that way once. And, like, not even in cutscenes are you like, actually kind of racist, though. Like, even in cutscenes, you're still like, you're not, but then the game insists that you are until you put points into it, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I mean, I get that you have to, it's a video game. You have to like turn it into a game in some way. But I've always thought that was like a little clunky the way they handle those things.
Yeah, and everyone comes to you and you're just like, you're just genuinely a nice person who's interested in them. And they're like, wow, oh my God, can I die for you? And you're like, I literally just told you that like, I just had like the lowest bar of sympathy for you in this moment. And they're like, I'm joining your party. Let me in the gang. Let me read the book.
Yeah, like Stroll will be like, my parents and everyone I ever knew died in a fire. It'll be like, sounds cool, bro. Like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that, and whatever. And you chick, sorry to hear that. He's like, oh my God, I'm gonna follow you across the whole entire country.
Sorry to hear that. Most people are so happy to hear that.
Well, any final thoughts on the first chunk of Metaphor ReFantazio? Sarah shakes her head. She says, that was enough.
No, but when I catch that tax man, it's over for him. I've got beef with that man.
I would love to do a next part if y'all are down and keep playing this game, because maybe the next
I'll try to catch up to you.
It can be in a while. It can be in a while. That's the beauty of max spoilers as opposed to deepest dive is
And then like the
no
Baldur's Gate
pressure.
3 one, we can just never finish it.
I know. I still feel guilty about that, especially that we're taking on this huge honking game too. We're not going to hear the end of that one, Sarah. We need to go back and I don't know, watch gameplay videos of part 3 just to refresh our brains on what happened there, because I couldn't tell you what part happened when anymore.
We play it again.
Oh God!
Stream the entire thing.
The entire thing. Oh my God! Can you imagine? Well, thanks y'all so much for finally letting me talk about this game to another human being, because it warrants it. I'm glad that we all felt like doing this. This was great.
Yeah,
awesome.
I'm excited to keep talking about this game.
Kelsey, do you feel validated that you
to
called that this game should be on people's radar? I want to say like 6 months ago.
It's just, I mean, it's by the same people who have done a lot of the best Persona games. So it's just one of those, like, I don't know where it's going to rank on that scale, but it's going to be good. In some way, it's going to be good. And I'm happy to have other people playing JRPGs with me. I think this is going to be a slightly more interesting 210s at the end of the year, where several people will have a JRPG that's not Final Fantasy VII Remake high up on.
That's a good point.
Alliance, not Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Alliance.
This is maybe a better game than that.
This is my JRPG year. Like I was like you, Jacob. Like the only one I played before this was probably Persona 5. Like I don't really think I played very many other JRPGs before this year. And then this year I did Infinite Wealth and Like a Dragon's 7, Remake and Rebirth, and now this. And they're all banging games. I've just been sleeping on JRPGs, I gotta say. I don't know why. I guess the length of them, I guess, is kind of intimidating.
Long.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like honestly, there's a lot of them that are fine. Like there's a ton of them that are like very playable, very, you'll enjoy it. But I think it is sometimes kind of hard to sift through the, like, especially if you haven't played a lot of them. Like, okay, but like if I can only play 2 or 3 this year because these are long games,
100 hours, yeah.
Which ones am I picking? And if you pick like 3 just mediocre ones in a row, like I totally get it. I would also be just kind of like, I don't think JRPGs are for me,
Mm-hmm. Valid. But this one's for all of us. Metaphor
This is
ReFantazio.
for all of us.
A name that I kind of hated, but I'm learning to love more and more.
If I just call it Metaphor, I don't dislike it even a little
I like
bit.
That it
I like
has the
Metaphor.
ReFantazio on it.
Yeah. So I would like to just, can we just
not fun
call
to
it
say, though.
Metaphor?
ReFantazio.
and just pretend-
That's fun to say. ReFantazio. Don't think about the fact that it's attached to a product for commercial sale. Just like the word ReFantazio. It kind of rolls off the tongue.
Oh.
I think it does. I think it's too many like distinct sounds that don't sound like they follow each other.
ReFantazio.
Tazio is fine, but not ReFantazio.
Metaphor-tazio.
Does that make sense?
Ooh.
Metaphor-tazio.
That kind of hits.
But they need the fantasy in there because it's like a fantasy world.
Is Poggers deceased in your arm right now, by the way? It's like, that's
You don't need
your
to, like, put the
protagonist
genre.
Poggers.
You don't need to put the genre in the game title. Just call it Metaphor.
No.
It's fine.
Yeah. And even with the name Metaphor, people online still don't understand that this game is quite literally a metaphor. Good Lord.
That's so funny.
I had a couple
It's
tweets
literally a
about it.
metaphor.
I tweeted about this game for some reason. Twitter picked them up, and holy hell, the amount of comments I got that were just like, stop trying to add reality to this game. I just want to enjoy it for what it is.
There's
I'm like,
literally
homie,
a real book in it.
have you played
like-
the first
it's
2
like
minutes?
The whole
By
game is just
explicitly
people.
telling you.
Yeah, it's like the whole game is just like someone looking into the camera and being like, I guess racism is bad, and they're like, nothing to do with me.
Can I hit that thing over there with a stick? Like, genuinely.
So glad this game isn't political. I mean, come on.
It's
Meanwhile, you're
literally
on the
about
campaign
becoming
trail.
king. You're in a democratic election with various different
just wish we
political
could
ideologies.
Yes, but the elf lady is hot, so
She is hot.
Elf lady.
therefore it's not
they're mad that
political.
she doesn't have an ass. Sorry. Sorry to
Oh.
report.
I do think that I wish they weren't so scared of ass, but like,
Yeah,
she still looks good.
she looks fantastic. Fantastic. Absolutely.
Fantastico.
Fantastico. Thanks you all so much for joining us. And thank you all for being on. Potentially, we're not going to 100% say it's going to happen, but we'll try to do a part 2 so that we exceed expectations if we do actually end up doing it. But I would love to do it. We'll see how much more we all play of it. Make sure to check out MinMax and have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Bye.
Did you know that you can double the amount of MinMax podcasts you listen to every single week right in your favorite podcast app? All you have to do is go to patreon.com/MinMax with 2 N's, jump in at that $5 tier, and then you're good to go. You have the podcast version of The Deepest Dive, Max Spoilers, MinMax Interviews, weekly access to Bonus Pod, which is our Patreon exclusive podcast. It's very good. And early and ad-free versions of the MinMax Show podcast every single week. There's a ton of content in there, and it's a way to directly support what we do here at MinMax.